From our Toronto studios, this is Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum. I am Ahmed Ramadan. Our top story for today, Israel's Security Cabinet has officially approved a ceasefire and prisoner exchange agreement with Hamas. The deal was mediated by Qatar, Egypt, and the US. The first phase begins Sunday with 33 Israeli hostages to be freed in 7 batches over 42 days. The first group of 3 captives is scheduled for release at 4 p.m. local time. The list of Palestinian detainees set for release has been published, aligning with previous negotiations. The deal aims to de-escalate violence in Gaza and address humanitarian needs while securing the release of captives on both sides. The agreement outlines a 6-week initial ceasefire, during which dozens of Israeli prisoners held by Hamas. In return, Israel will release hundreds of Palestinian detainees from its custody. Meanwhile, humanitarian aid to Gaza is expected to surge, alleviating severe shortages of food, medicine, and shelter caused by displacement and continued conflict. The deal was signed in Doha by representatives from Israel, Hamas, the US, and Qatar. At least 113 Palestinians, including 28 children and 31 women, have been killed in Gaza since a ceasefire was announced on Wednesday. Gaza Civil Defense reports that more than 264 people have been injured. Israeli airstrikes hit Rafah, Khan Yunis, and Gaza City, with Gaza City suffering the most casualties. In one day alone, 86 people were killed, highlighting the violence, despite the truce announcement. Spokesperson for Gaza Civil Defense, Mahmoud Basal, reports that the Israeli occupation forces are still bombing the territory. The UN says that every day, 15 children in Gaza sustain injuries that may lead to lifelong disabilities. Gaza Civil Defense has described the situation as harsh, accusing Israel of continuing bombings despite the ceasefire deal. Hamas claimed Israel is deliberately committing massacres to sabotage the truce deal. It's called Israel's actions terrorist and condemned its bloodshed. The UN and other international groups have also expressed concerns over reports of continued Israeli airstrikes on Gaza, urging all parties to honor the ceasefire. Israel's war on Gaza has killed at least 46,788 Palestinians and wounded 110,453 since October 7, 2023. The International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants in November for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant for war crimes and crimes against humanity in Gaza. Israel also faces a genocide case at the International Court of Justice for its war on the enclave. The incoming administration of President-elect Donald Trump plans to revoke sanctions on violent Israeli settlers imposed by President Joe Biden. Trump's Secretary of State nominee Marco Rubio confirmed the move during a Senate hearing, emphasizing the government's strong pro-Israel stance. He also backed expanding the Abraham Accords and revoking visas for Hamas supporters. The Biden administration's sanctions targeted settler violence and land grabs in the occupied West Bank. These measures were enacted under a February 2024 executive order, which also sanctioned groups supporting such activities. UN data shows that 2024 saw unprecedented Israeli settler violence against Palestinians in the West Bank, raising global concerns. Despite these challenges, the Trump administration aims to reverse the sanctions with earlier pro-settlement policies. President-elect Donald Trump's choice for defense secretary says he backed Israel in its war on Gaza. Pete Hegseth was testifying before the Senate Armed Services Committee this week for his confirmation hearing. His opening remarks were interrupted many times by protesters, one of whom called him a misogynist and a Christian Zionist. Pro-Israel Senator Tom Cotton said he was not really sure why being a Christian Zionist was a bad thing. He said he believes Jewish people deserve a homeland in the ancient Holy Land where they have lived since the dawn of history. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi will not attend President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration on Monday. Her spokesperson did not provide details on why she is skipping the event. Pelosi attended Trump's first inauguration in 2017 when she was House Minority Leader. The 84-year-old lawmaker had hip replacement surgery after she fell on a congressional trip to Luxembourg last month. Pelosi returned to Congress with a walker to take part in a joint session to certify the results of the 2024 presidential election. Billionaires and global leaders set to attend Trump's inauguration. Details come after the break. Stay tuned and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Elon Musk and other billionaires, Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg, will attend Donald Trump's second presidential inauguration on Monday. Musk, the world's richest person, had donated more than $250 million to Trump's campaign. He is slated to lead the newly formed Department of Government Efficiency alongside biotech entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy. Reports confirm that foreign dignitaries, including Argentina President Javier Milei, who was the first to meet Trump post-election, will also attend. Chinese President Xi Jinping will send an envoy, while Italian PM Giorgia Meloni is uncertain about attending. Outgoing President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden will join former Presidents Barack Obama, George Bush, and Bill Clinton, accompanied by former First Ladies Laura Bush and Hillary Clinton. However, Michelle Obama will skip the ceremony, marking her second absence from a major event involving former presidents. Vice President Kamala Harris, last year's Democratic presidential candidate, will attend with her husband Douglas Emhoff. Observers say Trump's invitation list breaks traditions, highlighting his global and billionaire connections. Donald Trump's inauguration on Monday in Washington, D.C. is on track to be the coldest in nearly 40 years. Daytime temperatures are forecast to hover around 24 degrees Fahrenheit, with wind chills plunging as low as -5 degrees. Meteorologists warn this could be the chilliest inauguration since 1985, when Ronald Reagan's second-term ceremony recorded just 7 degrees Fahrenheit. The unusually frigid weather is part of a massive Arctic blast sweeping across the U.S. Over 300 million Americans are expected to face below-average temperatures by Monday. At least 25 people have died as wildfires continue to devastate parts of Los Angeles County. Its medical examiner confirmed that the fires, which include the Palisades and Eaton blazes, have killed 9 and 16 people respectively. The National Weather Service warned of winds expected overnight. According to CAL FIRE, the Eaton and Palisades fires have become the most and second most destructive wildfires in Southern California's history. They, along with the Hearst fire, have scorched roughly 60 square miles, an area larger than Paris. The Palisades fire has burned more than 23,700 acres and is only 18% contained. The Eaton fire has burned through over 14,000 acres and is 35% contained. An 11-year-old African-American girl was handcuffed for 7 minutes in Syracuse, New York, after deputies mistook her for a car theft suspect. The child's mother expressed heartbreak over the incident, saying, "That's not how you handle children." The girl was detained near where the stolen car was last seen. Deputies later determined she wasn't the suspect after reviewing a photo. A video of the encounter shared online showed the girl crying and her friends disputing the deputies' claims. Critics condemned the handling of the situation, citing racial bias and poor protocols. The New York Civil Liberties Union called the treatment of the black child disturbing. The group urged the sheriff's office to engage with the community and improve training. The Onondaga County Sheriff's Office defended the deputies, saying the girl matched the suspect's description. However, it announced a policy change to notify parents in such cases. Donald Trump's pending inauguration for a second term on Monday has reignited fears over his strict immigration policies, including border closures and mass deportations. Thousands of migrants are in limbo, fearing for the future. In Mexico City, asylum seekers like Jairo, a Colombian fleeing threats from paramilitary groups, anxiously await appointments via CPB-1, a U.S. digital asylum system. Jairo, who was once a military sergeant, now works as a cook while seeking safety for his family. Trump's plans target not only undocumented migrants, but also legal pathways like CPB-1 and humanitarian programs. More than 860,000 migrants have used CPB-1 since 2023, but Trump's agenda threatens such programs. Analysts say the president-elect's rhetoric suggests expanded crackdowns even on those legally entering. Despite the uncertainty, many migrants remain determined. Venezuela's Freddy Miranda declared, after crossing 7 countries, Trump won't stop me. Peruvian Alexis Trillo stressed, we're not criminals. We want a better life for our families. Trillo fled his country due to the violence and repression under the government of President Dina Boluarte, who assumed power after Pedro Castillo's ouster in December 2023. A University of Michigan study shows nearly half of migrants faced gun-related violence before fleeing. The U.S. has announced sanctions against Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, the leader of the Sudanese armed forces. Deputy Treasury Secretary Wally Adeyemo said the U.S. will continue to disrupt the flow of weapons into Sudan and hold leaders responsible for their disregard of civilian lives. Secretary of State Antony Blinken last week blamed Sudan's Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, and allied militias for committing genocide in Sudan. The U.S. has already sanctioned paramilitary RSF leader Mohammed Hamdan Daglo Musa, known as Hemedti, for committing atrocities against the Sudanese people. Sudan has been ravaged by fighting between the army and the RSF since April 2023. The civil war has resulted in more than 20,000 deaths and displaced more than 14 million people, according to estimates from the UN and local authorities. U.S. Central Command Commander General Michael Eric Kurilla visited Syria to assess the fight against ISIS. Kurilla met with U.S. military leaders, Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces, or SDF, and others to evaluate efforts to prevent the group's resurgence. He toured the Al-Hol camp, which housed thousands of detainees, warning that without repatriation and rehabilitation, these camps could foster a new generation of ISIS fighters. More than 9,000 ISIS detainees from more than 50 nations remain in SDF-guarded facilities. Kurilla emphasized CENTCOM's commitment to repatriating detainees and transferring fighters to their home countries for prosecution. Turkey criticized U.S. cooperation with the SDF, which it said includes groups such as Kurdish PKK-YPG elements citing links to terrorism. Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan issued an ultimatum for PKK-YPG fighters to leave Syria, threatening military action. Fidan reaffirmed Turkey's determination to combat terrorism from both ISIS and the PKK. The PKK, responsible for more than 40,000 deaths in its 40-year campaign against Turkey, is designated as a terrorist organization by Turkey, the US, and the EU. Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan has been sentenced to 14 years in prison in a major corruption case. A court near the capital, Islamabad, also convicted his wife, Bushra Bibi, for the couple's involvement in the Al-Qadir Trust, a welfare foundation they co-founded. Prosecutors allege the trust was used as a front for financial misconduct. Khan denies wrongdoing, and his party, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, or PTI, has called the verdict baseless and plans to appeal. Supporters say the conviction is part of a broader strategy to silence him, while protests have erupted nationwide since his arrest. Human rights groups and international observers have raised concerns over the fairness of the trials and Khan's detention. A UN panel said his imprisonment lacked legal basis. Experts fear the verdict could further destabilize a country grappling with political unrest and economic challenges. SpaceX's Starship broke apart mid-flight, disrupting airline routes to avoid falling debris. The Federal Aviation Administration briefly diverted flights near the debris zone, affecting at least 20 aircraft, according to Flight Radar 24. Normal operations resumed shortly after. Elon Musk attributed the failure to a possible oxygen or fuel leak above the engine firewall. He vowed improvements, including fire suppression and increased venting ahead of the next launch planned for next month. The uncrewed Starship carried 10 dummy satellites and was testing a partial planetary loop. SpaceX lost contact 8 minutes after liftoff from Texas. That's all from our Toronto studios. Thank you for watching Muslim News. We are a community channel dedicated to bringing you stories you can trust. Please like, share, and subscribe to our content. You can also comment to let us know what you think of our coverage. You can donate now by visiting muslimnetwork.tv/donate. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV. Salam.